Anime fans of all kinds are eating mighty well this winter. Between Jujutsu Kaisen, Frieren, Pluto, and Scott Pilgrim, the art enjoyers out there have got more good fucking food than they know what to do with. But tonight, here at Chez Garbage, you trash connoisseurs will eat the best of all. We have an absolutely massive and very varied menu to get through this evening with all of fall's new trash alone, so sadly we won't be able to roast any returning anime on top of that, but if you absolutely need an update on, say, girlfriend,
私たちの関係は健全ですから。
ああ、3! はしないって約束したから
It's going like that. Also, Shield Hero fans can finally rest easy knowing they'll never have to think about that f***ing turtle again, except for in several turtle-related flashbacks this season. But other than that, you're finally free. And of course it goes without saying that the Eminence in Shadow is still peak. And yeah, that's everything that's coming back, I'm pretty sure. Yup, no other sequels or spin-offs I can think of. Especially not for any anime I've roasted before. Nope, not a one. So without further ado, this is the hottest trash of fall 2023, brought to you by Rosetta Stone. Rosetta Stone is a world-class language learning app with a pioneering immersive method that teaches you to directly connect concepts and images with words in your target language without ever using your native tongue. I've been using it to practice my Japanese lately for some stuff I'm working on, and one of the things I love most about it is its language recognition feature, which can give you tips to improve your pronunciation in real time. If I'd learned Français from Rosetta Stone instead of the Canadian school system, I'd probably know how to pronounce something other than "Est-ce que je peux aller aux toilettes?" No knocks against my teachers, they were almost all very good. I just find it easier to learn at my own pace, and with conveniently compact lessons available on your phone or PC, Rosetta Stone lets you do exactly that whenever you have time, be it before class, between meetings, on your commute home, or even on the can, or should I say, toire? How about that? You just learned how to take a crap in 3 different languages, and I haven't even told you where to put your credit card yet. Now that's what I call value. And it only gets better. From now till December 4th, Rosetta Stone's offering a Cyber Monday deal of a lifetime. 60% off a lifetime subscription for not just one language, but all 25. So wherever life takes you in the future, assuming they speak, one of these, you'll be prepared. Or maybe some of your friends and family will. It is an amazing Christmas present after all. Don't miss out on this amazing deal. Click the link below to start speaking a new language today. Speaking of learning things, I've learned over the years that some of you guys won't learn some things no matter how many times I say them. So to the people preparing to comment that the 100 girlfriends who really love you is peak and thus doesn't belong in this video and or its thumbnail, I have only one thing to say. Trash heaps have peaks too. When I call an anime trash, I'm not saying it's of inherently poor quality. That would be garbage. Easy mistake to make. Trashiness isn't about quality at all. It's about taste, or rather the distinct, often deliberate, and delightful lack thereof. Trash is gaudy, casually offensive, nakedly self-indulgent, pun full-frontally intended there. It doesn't care what polite society thinks it should be doing, only what it wants to do. And often what it wants to do is just throw the audience and or author insert character into a room full of incredibly hot women who are constantly fighting over his dick for the duration of the death game or stay in isekai land or whatever it turns out to be. A lot of trash is also coincidentally garbage, but some trash uses its unparalleled creative freedom to break truly new narrative ground. The whole reason I founded this conceptually dubious restaurant in the first place was to find that kind of trash. And 100 Girlfriends is perhaps the ultimate example of it.
買い入れさせていただいてもよろしいでしょうか
脳みそ腐ってんのかおめえ脳みそ腐ってんのか
言葉もございません
そんなペータローくんわかりいつの女の子を好きになってからって私たちはどこまで優しい方なんですか脳みその防腐剤箱で必要だこれ
This show confidently declares the new narrative territory it plans to conquer right there in the title. A harem of 100 girlfriends who really, 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 really love their protag-kun. Not just 100 cute character designs hanging all jigglily off his arm, though certainly that too, and the jiggling looks incredible. But no, we're talking 100 named, fully backstoried characters with enough depth to form believable, emotionally satisfying relationships with protag-kun. Ones that feel totally unique from all 99 of his other girlfriends. All of the girls Rentaro Ijo zings with, the series uses Hotel Transylvania rules for soulmates.
Alright, maybe just a little.
Have incredibly vibrant and distinct personalities, not just in relation to each other, but to the entire modern waifu meta. Some take well-worn tropes in fun new directions, like the starter pack, Karane and Hakari, who are the funniest tsundere and secretly slutty rich girl, respectively, who I've seen since Kaguya.
よーし行くぞからね
別にくすぐったくなんかないんだからね。
そんなもん強がってどうすんだなんかいかがわしいことしてるみたいになっちゃってるじゃんか
Meanwhile, other girls explore less conventional perspectives, like Ai-san, who's so robotic in her drive for efficiency, she's literally never had fun before. Or Shizuka, a non-verbal volunteer librarian who communicates exclusively in quotes she's memorized from this light novel series that's clearly her special interest. And don't worry, the story doesn't just treat these girls' issues like one-off gimmicks. Both the show and Rentaro are sincerely interested in understanding what makes each of these girls tick and exploring the unique challenges that come with their unique circumstances. And, more importantly, with helping them overcome those hang-ups in the long term over some very solid gradual character development, because he really, 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 really loves each and every one of them back. It's easy to get distracted by how goodly animated this show be. Wow. Also, other good qualities like the humor. There's humor, and it's outrageous.
今日はいいお天気ですね。男性の9割は恋人と手をつなぐのが好き。
But if you really look under the hood at just how many moving parts this story has, or how it manages to give all of the different characters its juggling complex relationships both with Rentaro and each other, what impresses most is just what a Herculean feat of writing the whole thing is. Even in these early stages where the quantity gimmick hasn't really kicked in yet, the quality of these female characters is better than like 95% of all the harems ever, and frankly, 70% of all non-harems shonen and seinen. And Rentaro is the most likable, Chadley, S-tier boyfriend material harem protag possibly ever, at least since Tenchi. Like, miraculously, no matter how many girls there are, there is never, at any moment, a single question of why any of them would want him, even if you take out the whole "because God said so" plot device. All of these relationships just make sense. They make so much sense that it also makes sense why all of his S-tier girlfriend material girlfriends would be willing to share him. Most harems, literally a 20th of this one's size, can't pull that off. I simply have no choice but to award 100 girlfriends 5 solid gold dumpsters full of the complete works of William Shakespeare, with all the old-timey swear words highlighted, plus a load of fireworks. Trash doesn't get much peaker than that. And if you want to peek down into Garbage Valley for contrast, you need look no further than A Girl and Her Guard Dog. Another fall rom-com about, Geez, where to even begin? I guess we'll start where the show does. This is the first shot we ever see of the leads in this love story. I'll give you a sec to take it all in and see if you can maybe spot any problems there. So, yeah, remember Usagi Drop? You know, the really wholesome anime about a young orphan girl and her adopted dad based on a manga that we don't like to talk about? Well, Guard Dog figured out how to tell a similar story without completely ruining the parts people like about it, by taking all those bits out and skipping straight to the grooming.
俺が伊崎さんのお兄ちゃんにもなります。全部俺がなってあげる。
ちょっと何？かわいい。無理。好き。離れられないこの気持ちは今日も大きくなるばかりだ。
Well, it's not completely one-to-one with Usagi Drop. This little blonde lady who used to carry a stuffed rabbit around everywhere isn't just any orphan, she's the orphaned granddaughter of a Yakuza boss, which means that her father, mother, brother, boyfriend figure isn't just some ordinary guy trying to make ends meet and support her, but a Yakuza enforcer who uses his position and a little bit of violence to infiltrate the new faraway high school where she was hoping to get a fresh start and make new friends who don't know that her family does organized crime, so he can stalk her and also scare away any of those nasty boys who might try to talk to her. Not as a teacher, of course. That would be weird. This 26-year-old man goes in as a student.
How do you do, fellow kids?
And it's a good thing he does too, cause the very first boy she hangs out with turns out to be an underage drinker, also smoker, and so are all his friends. Whew, bullet dodged. Good thing this professional murder pedo was here to make sure no crimes happened. Yeah, this show gets 4 big honkin' industrial Kobe beef packing dumpsters full of extremely questionable fan fiction and even more questionable meat packages, which smell like pork, not beef when you burn them. Oh, right. Also, the dumpsters are very on fire. So, now that you know the difference between trash and garbage, we can find... Oh, you still need some clarification? Well, luckily, the isekai menu this season does have plenty of suspiciously similar examples we can compare and contrast. Examples like a playthrough of a certain dude's VRMMO life, a title that ranks right up there with The Legend of the Legendary Heroes for descriptiveness and specificity. Ironically, this is one of the most unique VRMMO anime to come out lately, at least on paper, by sole virtue of the fact that its Kirito is like an adult with a full-time job and stuff, which means he can't just no-life his way to overpowered status, because he's already no-lifing for an exploitative corporation. So for once, Protag-kun isn't totally overpowered. What? When did I say that? Don't put words in my mouth. I can see why you'd think it though. Because he's only gaming in his spare time outside his work hours, unlike, you know, everyone else in the entire world who plays video games, Protag-san doesn't want other players to have to rely on him too much. So, when he creates his character, he intentionally chooses the worst class and all the worst skills from the beta, so no one will want to party up. And he can enjoy some relaxing solo play with an intentionally underpowered build, because obviously that's what you would want to have for your first playthrough of a new game when you know you're not gonna have other players to support you. But then, in a shocking twist, if you've never seen any show like this before, it turns out that all those worst skills actually have secret super good synergies with each other that the beta players just never discovered, such as the incredibly obscure combo of stealth and archery. That's right, literally the most basic Skyrim cheese strat. Protag-kun invented it by accident. Wow, what a genius. He's also pretty much the only player in the whole game who can craft medicine, because in beta you could just buy potions from the NPCs, so, you know, why bother? And I guess all the MMO veterans in that beta just assumed the devs would never bother to fix a problem with their economy that renders an entire system they probably spent years developing functionally useless, because they are all f***ing shocked Pikachus when the NPC vendors start running out of stock and Protag-kun cleans up with these great flavored potions he's been testing in his vending machines, which he has because, oh yeah, I forgot to mention, he's also the only player in the entire game who's tried the cooking system since launch. Look, if you told me this anime was written by the same guy as this ad...
Hey guys, finished testing that game yet? I've got another one I need designed.
We just finished level 3 and need to tighten up the graphics a little bit.
Great.
I would not believe you. Obviously, the show's Japanese. But that's the only reason I wouldn't. A certain VRMMO dude gets 2 waste paper baskets full of Nexon game cards and a certain funny thing? Substance? F it. This anime's not trying, why should I? Good VRMMO shows like Log Horizon and SAO Alternative Gun Gale also nail. This show, all here, you should definitely go check out his Worst MMO Ever videos. If you like my roasts, they will be right up your alley. Not this alley. This is my alley. I'm paying $1,200 a month for this place. We're in Vancouver. Speaking of, I believe, based on my experience with the manga, that the hot new Vancouver mentioning Shonen Jump adaptation, Undead Unluck, also has the potential to be premium grade anime trash of the highest order. Unfortunately, not only have the show's distributors at Disney and Hulu completely doomed its chances in North America by failing to give it even a single tweet's worth of promotion, they also just completely f***ing forgot to put it on Disney Plus in Canada at all, so I can't even watch it to do a proper roast. Thus, in lieu of a trash rating, gold or otherwise, for the show itself, I'm forced to give Disney and Hulu management a box of dead rats. So, Bob Iger, I know you're personally watching this, expect that in the mail in 3 to 5 business days. Okay, now that you finally know the difference between trash and garbage for real this time... No? You're still confused? We're kind of running out of comparisons here. Oh! I know. Have you heard of 16-Bit Sensation, Another Layer? It's the anime of choice for old taku this fall, thanks to its nostalgia-heavy slice-of-life comedy story about a visual novel illustrator who goes back in time to live out her dream of making actual video games rather than modern erotic shovelware, which serves as a perfect vehicle for both endless in-jokes and deep-cut references for visual novel addicts, as well as a journey through the recent history of Akihabara and its transformation in tandem with the rise of Bishoujo culture that any kind of otaku will appreciate. Now, as a, let's call it, Shirobako-like, 16-Bit Sensation isn't really all that trashy, even if a not insignificant portion of the plot revolves around opening rare old porn games in public to initiate time leaps, and even though every episode ends with a roll of all the girls in very nice swimsuits, you see, all those sexy CGs are actually gorgeously color-authentic 16-bit pixel art, lovingly rendered with a surprisingly convincing CRT filter, which technically makes them key details in the historical accuracy of this period drama. I swear, Mom, I'm watching it for the educational reasons and the world-class post-processing effects.
この98の気持ちももっと考えろ。こんなに一生懸命働いてくれてるんだぞ、9801は。
Seriously, though, it's less a flaming trash heap than a cozy little dumpster full of body pillows with an exactly U-shaped hole right in the middle, which I'm choosing to reuse this Build-A-Bear graphic for, because honestly, we just don't got the art budget to draw up new ratings for anime that aren't even technically on the menu. Anyway, whether or not 16-Bit Sensation truly is trash to you, it is undeniably about trash, generational eroge trash, and the wonderful sorts of weirdos who made it back in the golden dumpster age of Japanese PC gaming, which you can and should compare and contrast to the absolute garbage Konoha's stuck making in the present to understand the difference between those two things. Finally. Please? Alright, you get it. No. You get it. We're moving on to the obligatory isekai, which for once, there's only one of, though don't you worry, we got plenty of vegan isekai substitute to make up for it if somehow that's not enough after all the stuff that we have served you every season. It's nothing but isekai. It never stops. Anyway, Butareba, the story of a man who turned into a pig, is a story about a man, specifically a who gets isekai'd by food poisoning himself with a pig's liver and ends up in the body of a pig. And thus he must do all the isekai stuff despite only being able to do pig stuff, plus like a little bit of human thinky stuff. Also DDR stuff. He's very good at DDR. 2 episodes in a row fill an entire minute of screen time with just him doing DDR inside his head, while various poorly animated villagers look on and react. Perfect! But the main thing he does is think extremely perverted thoughts about the beautiful slave girl who rescued him from the pig pen, which she can hear because every member of her enslaved race, the Yethma, have telepathic powers. So it's really a show about a 19-year-old guy constantly telling the 16-year-old girl he's constantly reminding himself, and the audience is, in fact, 16, how nice and silky her thighs are. But that technically doesn't count as sexual harassment because he's not saying it out loud and she can't help hearing it. You know, the sort of isekai where they gotta spend several minutes figuring out exactly how to straddle and ride a pig without getting too, stimulated by the experience. It's also, in a shocking twist, one of the only types of isekai I've seen with a sexy slave waifu in it that actually bothers to, like, condemn chattel slavery as a concept unambiguously without fetishizing or apologizing for it in any way. Also, when a hotter guy shows up and starts making eyes at his crush, the pig's just like, yeah, that makes me jealous, but she can do what she wants. I don't own her. So don't judge a book by its cover, I guess? Or its other contents, for that matter. I give Butareba 3 toxic waste barrels full of surprisingly feminist softcore bestiality doujins. I also found myself quite pleasantly surprised with the Returner's Magic Should Be Special, which seems like just another half-assed Mahoka-like pseudo-Harry Potter clone about a guy in a magic school with mostly tournament arc-oriented curriculum whose magic power is the power to turn off other magic powers, and it mostly is one of those, albeit without Mahoka's iconic sister f***er elements, but it manages to take a seed of a sort of unique idea and develop it into something genuinely interesting with that framework. The returner part of the title refers to our protag, Desir Herman, who returns to his first day of magic school from the last day of an apocalyptic monster battle that killed all his classmates 3 years in the future, which of course he wants to stop by bringing all those classmates up to his own OP level. But that's easier said than done when the nobility-run school refuses to give its commoner students a proper education. So the story isn't really about killing all the monsters to save the world, it's about fixing the systemic oppression that stands in the way of true monster-killing progress. Based, honestly. And I mean, the genius solution he comes up with to that systemic problem is just to prove the bigots wrong by winning a tournament arc. Not exactly galaxy-brained politics there. But the trio he puts together to do that, consisting of him, a tsundere with a secret crush on him, and a little fencing twink with also a secret crush on him, whom the tsundere happens to think is platonically adorable, thus creating this very fun, not quite love triangle dynamic, actually reflects that theme really well by representing the outsider perspectives of a commoner, a nouveau riche noble, and a nobleman's secret bastard, respectively. So, as they interact with each other and the other students, their backstories naturally fuel the world building in really interesting ways.
名前はデジール・アルマンです。なんだよ、平民じゃん。
There is some surprisingly solid fantasy writing buried in all this magic school anime bullshit. And the same can be said for the Demon Lord at Excalibur Academy, although in that show's case, the bullshit goes at least as deep as the world building, if not deeper, which is impressive in a way, considering how much time this show devotes to fleshing out both the prehistory history of its double reincarnated human hero turned demon lord turned 12-year-old boy, and the 1,000-year modern history of the monster-besieged Magitech-based civilization that's seemingly long since forgotten both of his legends. No bones about it, that is some intriguing and genuinely original world building, and the show has a lot of it. So imagine how high the bullshit pile has to be to match that. There are a lot of layers to this anime's setting and characters, but to get to them, you gotta go through even more layers of the protag being an adult man in a 12-year-old's body and flirting with, like, every kind of woman who should not be flirting with that kind of body, especially a teenage girl who happens to technically also be a corpse, a sexy corpse, that cannot resist the commands of her necromantic master, who, let me remind you, is a 12-year-old boy. So, you know, in case any isekai fans in the house were worried that the guard dog girl trash was gonna outdo your favorite genre, worry not! Your crown is safe for another season.
ダメじゃないレオくん。それ石鹸でしょ？シャンプー使わないと。どうしたのレオくん？もしかして裸見られて恥ずかしいの？男の子なのに。
A Returner's Magic gets 2 trash bins full of slightly smoldering printouts of surprisingly political Harry Potter /fic, and the Demon Lord with the magic sword gets 4 flaming dumpsters full of just the tags for all the other Harry Potter fanfics. If I had a nickel for every anime season that gave me a reason to deploy this meme in 2023, I'd have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but I guess it's not that weird it happened twice. It's a very popular meme, and I love Phineas and Ferb. Anyway, Ragna Crimson is also about a super OP guy from the future where all his friends are dead, sending his brain back in time to unmurder all of them. Though in contrast to the more political approach of its contemporary, Ragna Crimson goes about this by being as absurdly edgy as it possibly can at every conceivable moment. Starring, quite possibly, the edgiest guy ever named Ragna, and the only other contender for that crown is literally named Ragna the Bloodedge. So here's the sitch. It's ye old medieval days, except there's cars and guns sometimes, and life is mostly chilled for people, except also there's dragons sometimes, which you can't kill with the guns unless you spend a lot of money on silver bullets. Or maybe you catch them out in sunlight, because it's one of them Demon Slayer type situations where they just took some JoJo vampires and called them something else. Anyway, that's why there's still dudes running around with silver swords hunting dragons, even though guns. Also, some not dudes do it, including this one, Leo, who's like 12 and also the best at it, a true dragon murder genius, which is why this wimpy, much older than 12 dude named Ragna is traveling with her, cooking for her, cuddling her in bed, bathing her, and so on. Wow. All this modern technology, and they still haven't invented child protective services. Not that it would have helped much in protecting that child or anyone else when the 10 mighty greater dragons decide to use all their JoJo vampire powers to wipe out all of humanity. Ragna survives that, though, after fusing with his own silver sword and gaining the power to fight those greater dragons head on. Then, after all of them are dead, he takes that power back in time to save Leo and all the other humans, presumably, with the help of this mad scientist edgelord dragon named Crimson, who wants to kill all the other dragons because reasons. And you know what they say, double the edgelords, double the edge. If you want to watch some very cool, beautifully animated magic turn vast swaths of people into equally beautiful bursts of blood and giblets, also sometimes dragons get turned into that, this anime's all that in a bag of extremely pointy potato chip shards.
今すぐぐちゃぐちゃに噛みつぶしてやるわ
爆発しろ
And if you want to add a third edgelord to the mix for even more fun, Kingdoms of Ruin provides more of the same with its story of a world where humanity and witches once lived in harmony until the humans invented science and decided to genocide all the witches with it because they were holding humanity back by helping us with magic too much. Kinda just seems like the humans felt like it. Anyway, this prompts our OP protag Adonis, the lone human apprentice of the strongest witch ever, Chloe, who is like a mother to him, and also a father, a brother, a sister, and you can fill in the blank on that last one, to embark on a mad quest for revenge when he finally breaks out of the magic Hannibal Lecter box the human emperor stuck him in after shooting her in the face right in front of him when she was about to say, "I love you," because of course she was about to say that. It wouldn't be the edgiest thing possible if she wasn't. Though when he does get out, taking on all the humans proves much easier than expected, because it turns out they can't use their anti-magic tech anymore because it has a side effect of giving people eye-bleeding super cancer, like instantaneously the second you're exposed to even just a little bit of the anti-magic radiation, which nobody noticed for a decade somehow, even though they were using that constantly. And like, yeah, the world building and whole story situation here really is not great. Some might even call it garbage. Personally, my eyes completely glaze over every time this show takes even a minute-long break for exposition dumps or character development, but luckily, the many scenes where half the characters we just met barely get half a sentence out before getting smushed or sukuna'd by some magic bullshit or science bullshit, as the case may be, more than make up for the too many scenes of those same characters talking way too f***ing much. If anything, the boring bits just make the carnage more cathartic. If you're just looking to turn your brain off for a bit and unwind with some edgy fun, both of these anime are perfect for it. But unfortunately, if you were hoping to quadruple down on that edginess, I'm sorry to report that Fall's last option is a bit lacking in comparison, to put it mildly. Not to judge a book by its cover, but when I saw this anime's source material on a manga shelf this summer, sporting the bright red title Berserk of Gluttony, I judged that shit super hard, and this anime has only validated that knee-jerk reaction. Sure, it's not quite the blatant knockoff that 7C's branding makes it out to be. Ragna Crimson's got way more We Have Berserk at Home vibes if you actually watch either of these anime, but that's just because Gluttony-type Berserk is far too busy knocking off other way shittier fantasy anime to borrow much of anything from its peak namesake. Set in one of those anime fantasy worlds that works like a JRPG kinda just because, the show's resident Kirito, Fate Graphite, yes, that is his real name, is the type of Kirito who gets picked on because everyone thinks his unique JRPG skill is super duper underpowered, when actually it's super duper overpowered. Bet you didn't see that coming. More specifically, it lets him circumvent the world's traditional level up mechanics in favor of stealing the stats of any monster or person he kills. But he's got to keep all that secret, you see, because those traditional level up mechanics are religious orthodoxy in this world, and if his sinful skill ever gets out, the church will send its holy knights to murderize him. Though, of course, if and when that happens, he'll be the only one doing any murderizing on account of how OP he is, but that's probably good for society at large, in addition to him, because all the Holy Knights seem to be giant bullies. I mean, villains. This show definitely isn't a thinly veiled metaphor for getting back at all the popular kids in high school. It's a super serial, gritty, dark fantasy about a world where the so-called nobility do very realistic and historical bad things, like buying child orphans on the black market to fulfill their sick fantasies of, doing William Tell impressions. Corrupt holy knights outcast heroes themed around the 7 deadly sins, the boring, entirely stat-based magic system, completely dogshit writing on every level. Why do I feel like I've heard this all before in some kind of repressed memory? Nah, I must be imagining things. Anyway, I think you get the point by this point. Ragna Crimson gets 4 trash cans full of blood and razor blades that are also on fire somehow. And also that fire is black, like my soul. Then I'm gonna give Kingdoms of Ruin 3 of that same sort of trash bin. And then Berserk of Gluttony gets, let's say, 2 trash cans full of tomato juice and safety scissors. Sorry for the state of that last almost isekai, but if you're still craving more edgy goodness even after all that, there is one other anime genre we can source it from. Death games. And this fall we have one that represents the absolute pinnacle of both trash and garbage. Kami Erebi God App is the kind of death game that could only come from the mind of Yoko Taro, executed with the kind of ineptitude that you can only get by asking a sane, normal writer to develop a Yoko Taro concept on his own without any help from Yoko Taro because Yoko Taro was too busy, presumably dealing with all the NIER anime delays. Also, it's got character designs by the creator of Soul Eater.
That's good.
Rendered in terrible CGI by a brand new studio that's clearly still figuring their tech out.
That's bad.
Boy, that's an understatement. It's so bad, it's already locked in for my best, worst, and most cursed anime of 2023 list, which premieres next month on this very channel. I mean, in this very restaurant. So, with apologies, I'm gonna hold off on roasting it until then. I know, I'm as bummed as you are, but this is already the longest, hottest trash menu we've ever put together, and me and the chefs are pretty darn tired after cooking all that up on top of 2 Scott Pilgrim videos, all in the space of like 2 weeks during Thanksgiving. So please just have a bit of patience. I promise once that's finally out of the oven, it'll be well worth the wait. Thanks so much for being so understanding. Now get the f*** out, it's closing time. Wait, actually, one more thing before you go. I want to give a shout out to longtime fan of the channel, The Ravens Doctor, and the first volume of his light novel series, Creation of the Inevitable. I've seen almost every isekai in existence at this point, much to my regret, but I ain't never seen a protag get isekai'd via death by snoo before, and after that hook, this whole book is brimming with clever world-building ideas and creative passion. And while the author has chosen to keep his circumstances private, from what I know, it's a very raw, personal story on top of that that makes it really interesting to me. I'll be doing a read-along stream over on Twitch for the book, either next month or January, depending on how busy things get on the main channel. But if you're curious in the meantime, there is a link to buy or read a sample of it for yourself below. Okay, now you can get the out. I'm Geoff Thew, trash sommelier extraordinaire, once again bidding you adieu. Maybe I should check out that French Rosetta Stone course.